Growing up, I was a person that loved to play games. I don't know if that was you, but I always loved playing the classics like Candyland. I loved playing Apples to Apples. I loved playing Clue. That was one of my all-time favorites. I also enjoyed sports as well, and I grew up playing baseball and I grew up playing basketball. But here's the thing. Whenever I played a game, I always wanted to know what the point of the game was. I wanted to know what the goal was. Reason being is because I wanted to win. You see, if life was a game, the question is, what is the objective? What is the goal of life, of that type of game? And you see, a lot of people are going to tell you that the point of life is to be happy. The point of life is to be happy. And people will devote themselves to figuring out what makes them happy. And a lot of people, they find that in material things. If I just had the new iPhone, then I would be happy. If I just had the new nice shiny white Vans, then I would be happy. If I just had this video game, this PS5 that just came out, then I would be happy. You see, people pursue that in material things. People also pursue happiness in relational things. That, hey, if I just had a boyfriend, if I had a girlfriend, if I had a wife, if I had a husband, then I would be happy. If I had more friends, then I would be happy and I would succeed in life. You see, other people, they don't find it in relational things. They don't find it in material things, but they find it in sinful things. And people pursue drugs, they pursue alcohol, they pursue pornography, and they think that those things in life are going to make them happy. But you know what I realized in life? Is whenever I pursue the different things that we've talked about this morning, it's kind of like McDonald's. Okay, I'm a person that loves McDonald's. Now, some of you are McDonald haters out there, and I don't get it because I love my 10-piece chicken McNugget meal. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But the funny thing about McDonald's is that every time I eat McDonald's, after I eat the McNuggets, after I eat the fries, after I have my sweet tea, I feel sick. The thing that I thought was gonna make me happy made me happy for a little bit, and then I don't feel good. And then I don't feel good at all. And I think that that's kind of what these things that we've talked about this morning is kind of like. That you think that the new iPhone is gonna make you happy, or you think the new shoes are gonna make you happy, or you think those sinful things. You think that if you're the most popular person, if you have a girlfriend, if you have a boyfriend, then you're gonna be happy. But I think it's kind of like McDonald's, where it's not going to fully satisfy you. You're going to want more. You're going to be upset. You thought that the thing that was going to make you happy actually made you feel kind of, wow, that's what it did to me? I thought it was going to fulfill me forever. Now, in life, we pursue happiness. But what if I told you that that actually wasn't the goal? At least if you're a Christian, that should not be the goal. You see, instead of pursuing happiness, we should be people that pursue holiness. And pursuing holiness, which is being set apart, doing things that Jesus did because he was holy. If you pursue holiness, you are going to be a person that is pursuing Jesus. And you know what? That actually should be our goal. And the world's going to tell you that pursuing Jesus actually is not going to bring you happiness. But that's not what the Bible tells us at all. In John 10:10, it says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. But Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." You see, Jesus came to give us life. He came to fulfill us. The world's going to tell you that he kills and steals your joy, that he's a joy kill. But that's not what Jesus does. You see, Jesus doesn't come to bring us happiness. But when we pursue Jesus, we're going to find this thing called joy. This word joy. You've probably heard of it. It's a very simple word. and it's the next word in our Advent series. We've been looking at all these different words. Advent, remember, it's about the coming. It's about Jesus coming, and we celebrate that before Jesus in preparation for Christmas because we believe that he came then, but we also get excited and look forward to the future because he is coming back. You see, we've been looking at these Bible Project videos. They're about 4 minutes long that explain these different words so perfectly. So I want you to check out this video as it explains joy.
Being in a good mood is really great, and most languages have lots of words to describe the experience, like happy, cheerful, joyful, and so on. The same goes for the languages of the Bible. In ancient biblical Hebrew, there's a variety of words, like simcha, sason, or gil. In the Greek New Testament, there's kara, euphrosune, or agaliasis. Each word has its own unique nuance, but they all basically refer to the feeling of joy and happiness. Now, what makes these biblical joy words interesting is noticing the kinds of things that bring happiness, and also seeing how joy is a key theme that runs through the whole story of the Bible. Let's start with sources of joy. On page 1 of the Bible, God says that this world is very good. And so naturally, people find joy in beautiful and good things of life, like growing flocks or an abundant harvest on the hills. The poet of Psalm 104 says, a good bottle of wine is God's gift to bring joy to people's hearts. People find joy at a wedding or in their children. There's even a Hebrew proverb that compares the joy that perfume brings to your nose with the joy a good friend brings to your heart. However, human history isn't just a joy fest. The biblical story shows how we live in a world that's been corrupted by our own selfishness. It's marked by death and loss. And this is where biblical faith offers a unique perspective on joy. It's an attitude God's people adopt, not because of happy circumstances, but because of their hope in God's love and promise. So when the Israelites were suffering from slavery in Egypt, God raised up Moses to lead them into freedom. And the first thing the Israelites did was sing for joy. Even though they were in the middle of a desert, they were vulnerable, the promised land was still far away, they rejoiced anyway. Later biblical poets looked back on this story and they remembered how the Lord caused his people to leave with joy, his chosen ones with shouts of joy. This joy in the wilderness, this was a defining moment, a way of saying that the joy of God's people is not determined by their struggles, but by their future destiny. This theme appears later in Israel's story, when Israel suffered under the oppression of foreign empires. The prophet Isaiah looked for a day when God would raise up a new deliverer like Moses. That's when those redeemed by the Lord will return to Zion with glad shouts, with eternal joy crowning their heads. Happiness and joy will overtake them. And while the Israelites waited, they chose joy to anticipate their future redemption. This is why it's significant that when Jesus of Nazareth was born, it was announced as good news that brings great joy. We're told that Jesus himself rejoiced and gave thanks to God his Father when he began to announce the kingdom of God. He even taught his followers the same joy in the wilderness, saying, when people reject you or persecute you for following me, rejoice, be very glad, because your reward is great in heaven. After his death and resurrection, Jesus commissioned his followers to go out and announce the good news that he was the risen King of the world. And as they did so, the early Christian communities were known for being full of joy, even when they were persecuted. Like when the Apostle Paul was sitting in a dirty Roman prison, he could say that he's chosen joy, even if he gets executed. He called this the joy of faith, or joy in the Lord. He believed it was the gift of God's Spirit, a sign that Jesus' presence is with you, inspiring hope in the midst of hardship. And when you believe that Jesus' love has overcome death itself, joy becomes reasonable in the darkest of circumstances. Now, this doesn't mean that you ignore or suppress your sorrow. That's not healthy or necessary. Paul often expressed his grief about missing loved ones or losing friends or his own freedom. He called it being full of sorrow and yet rejoicing. As he acknowledged his pain, he also made a choice to trust Jesus that his loss wouldn't be the final word. This is very different from the trite advice to turn that frown upside down. Christian joy is a profound decision of faith and hope in the power of Jesus' own life and love. And that's what biblical joy is all about.
I think my favorite quote from that video was when it said, the joy of God's people is not determined by their struggles, but by their future destiny. And let me tell you why that's so good. It's because we can be people, I know that I could be a person that finds my happiness in my circumstances, right? Like if things are going well, if I don't have that much stress going on, then I'm happy. But you see, joy has nothing to do with that. Joy has nothing to do with our circumstances, as the video just talked about. Joy has everything to do with the fact that Jesus loves me, that he's with me, that he's redeemed me, he's set my future, it is secure, it is certain, and I know that in this world, despite the troubles I have, there will be a day where there are no troubles anymore. And that brings me so much joy, and that should bring you joy as well. So often, circumstances try to steal our joy. But can I tell you something? Can I tell you a story, actually? There's this woman. She was unfortunately in the Holocaust. Her name was Corrie. Corrie ten Boom. It's a very popular name, popular stories. She's a believer in Jesus. And she was in the concentration camps. And, if you've learned about the concentration camps in 8th grade, you know that they were like the most horrific things that ever taken place in this world. The torture that happened there, those that were killed for being Jewish or having disabilities, all these crazy things. Corrie lived through this. But Corrie was also a person of forgiveness. And Corrie was a person that, despite her horrible circumstances that she found herself in the concentration camps, she chose joy. And here's a quote that she said. She said, "If you look at the world, you'll be distressed. If you look within, you'll be depressed. But if you look at Christ, you'll be at rest." You see, that is so true. When we keep our eyes focused on Jesus, despite the stress, despite what's going on, the struggles, the troubles, we can still be at rest because we know there will be a day where there's no more tears, there's no more pain, there's no more struggles. Guys, this Christmas season, I don't know if you're going to be happy on Christmas morning. Some of you, you're going to throw a fit because you're not going to get the gifts you want, and I hope that's not you. I hope that this Christmas season, despite the gifts we get, despite the fact of maybe your traditions are broken this year because of COVID, I hope that you could be a person that chooses joy because you know that Jesus came and he's coming back again and that our destiny with him is secure. There's a verse I want to read to you in Psalm chapter 16, verse 11. And it says, "You make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand." You see, it's Jesus' presence that gives us joy, not the presents we get on Christmas morning. Hopefully you guys remember that. We love you here at J78. We hope that you have a Merry Christmas. Check in with us next week as Shara continues our Advent series.